I've set this up. Hi, welcome everyone to the Advanced AI Meetup for Content Marketing. We are here. We've got an awesome agenda, and I'm going to dive right in today. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So much better. Okay, as I was saying, if you have to leave early, this is being recorded, and I will share out the recording. So. Um, Let's dive into this. Let's go into the first. So the first thing I decided, you guys, I know last time we were here, we talked a little bit about models. I think it's going to be cool for us to do this maybe every time we meet, right? It's a month to month thing, kind of seeing what's leading in terms of the models. What you're looking at is the chart from last month. So I'll start here. We can look at what was hot last month. Claude Opus 4.6 had just come out. It was leading the charts in terms of the most intelligent model, and you can see the ones that are kind of falling in line behind. Today, it's a little bit different. We've got a Gemini 3.1 Pro preview that is tied with GPT 5.4 thinking. And then we've got Opus 4.6 right behind, like at coming in third. Claude of Sonnet 4.6 is behind that, and you can kind of see how they play out. I don't use really the three major models that I use tend to be Gemini, Chat, and Claude. Those are my three kind of go-tos here. I always think this is interesting. This is, it changes all the time. I'm just curious, who's Claude, Opus 4.6 favorite? Anyone using 4.6? I'm not seeing. Okay, I see a hand from Daleen. Okay, yeah. It's my favorite. Claude Opus 4.6 is amazing, everyone. If you haven't used it or tried it, you will fall in love. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So that's my take on that. The other thing I like to look at, because we are content marketers, and whether we're doing B2B copy or whether we're doing B2C copy or whatever copywriting we are doing, that is creative writing. So I take a look here at the creative writing chart. This again was from last month. We had Opus 4.6 was at the top, and I think that aligned fairly well with our bake-off. We did a creative writing bake-off last month, and I think Claude Opus 4.6 had one of my favorite responses from that bake-off. But ChatGPT 5 point whatever it was at that point for was pretty close behind. I thought Chat did a pretty good job too. So I think this is really interesting. We've got Claude there at number one, but followed up by Gemini. I don't find Gemini to be a great creative writer, so I always think these outputs are really interesting. We've got Opus 4.6 coming in at number four. If you look at the numbers, the scores, they're all pretty close, right? They're running pretty neck and neck there if we look over at that score column. So again, this is always where I start. So if you're wondering, why are we looking at these? And oh, I will also put links in chat so you can find all of this. And in fact, I'll do that right now. Um, I've got my resources here that I will throw up for all of you in chat so you can follow along. But the reason is because I want to know if there's something I'm missing, right? There are things that are being updated all the time. The models are coming out with new. I'm amazed that there wasn't a drop today. Maybe there was. I was busy doing all sorts of things this morning, so I may have missed it. This is how we're rolling these days, right? Okay. Any questions so far? So again, this is from that was from last month. This is from today. Very similar, 4.6 Gemini. We got Grok creeping in to the charts here as a creative writing resource. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay. So if you're interested in learning about the models, yes, Cynthia, please stop me, ask a question.
Yes. So someone popped in and said no perplexity.
Mm.
And I was actually going to ask about not only perplexity, but some of the other more specific LLMs, like for medical and pharma. Are we seeing those things kind of drop down in usage because the deep research pieces of the bigger models are getting better? You're better able to actually drill down into those areas? Or is it just a volume play at this point? Like there's so many more people using Claude or Gemini versus a Perplexity, which goes deep, that's where the split is happening as you see those like not show up as much.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for perplexity, it's an interesting beast. It's a little, and this is, the lines get really blurry between what's a large language model and what would fall as one of the big kind of primary LLMs versus something that's more specialized. Perplexity is really built to be a search engine at the end of the day. Its strength is going off and kind of searching real-time information across the web. It does have its own proprietary model. However, it also is built on top of other models. You can select the model that you want to use for Perplexity. That does make it different from these base models that we're seeing here. So, you know, so that's one thing. The other thing that I'll say is, depending on the third, kind of the smaller tier, if we call them specialized models that you mentioned, like the vertical specific models, Cynthia, those are also kind of under the hood. We don't know if, some of them might be, many of them probably are built on top of these base models. They're going to be using whatever, a Gemini or whatever. And then they kind of put a layer between the user and the LLM to kind of help customize the output for a specific industry. Maybe, and that being said, it's crazy. There are also, I'm sure, companies that are building their own models. And I think, it's such a distributed and fragmented landscape that, I think for these tests that are, you're getting lots of data and you've got all these developers that are building these, kind of running these tests, those smaller models don't typically come into play here. Does that make sense? Hopefully that answers. And if anybody else has, Delaney, did you want to add something? Yeah.
I do. So there's a question in the chat that said, I'd be curious to know which tool you're using to measure brand visibility on LLMs. Profound, Peak AI, others.
I haven't been doing I don't have experience with that. The person who asked that question sounds like they have more experience than I, and we can open it up to the community. I tested a tool by Ahrefs that was called Brand Radar that was a good tool. That was one of the ones that listed as being able to determine how your brand was showing up. There are, just like every other tool out there, probably hundreds of tools now that are doing exactly that. They're going in and offering brands the promise of helping them find out where they show up. So I don't know. Does the person asking that have an input on which ones they
The
prefer?
name was listed as KS. I'm not sure who that is.
Hi, KS. Feel free to speak up. If you're in a place where you can't speak up, no worries. You can throw it into chat. And anyone else in the community have any experience with these tools that are now helping brands identify how they're showing up in generative engines?
I've done a little bit of work in that area, and you're right. There's a lot of consultants and a lot of apps that are coming out, but I think they're all wrapper apps. I think they're all wrapped around the major LLMs to begin with. What I heard, I sat in on a session a week ago, and what I heard then was that Ahrefs was one of the best to follow, and um, and HubSpot. They were doing the most work with being able to track those things reliably, but Ahrefs was getting the majority of the accolades in the meeting I sat into.
Excellent. I mean, and just to, God, how long was it ago now? Was it over a year ago? I mean, just it's so insane. I feel like what I'm about to say should be prefaced with, oh, well, 10 years ago. But instead, it's really like 1 year ago, the way I did this for my client at the time who wanted this exact thing is I did it manually. I had a ChatGPT plugin on an Excel spreadsheet, and went through and had the queries, and had it query chat, and it would put all the answers into my spreadsheet on how ChatGPT was answering the questions that were relevant for her brand, and they weren't mentioned, and all of her competitors were. But that was like a really cool hack that, maybe it was more like a year and a half ago, maybe two, I don't know, right? 2 years ago, there were no tools to do this, and she was really on the cutting edge of trying to figure this out. And that, so you can do it manually, everyone, if you want to.
The other thing that I've heard is that what people are liking about LLM findabilities or AEO or GEO or whatever you want to call it is that once you make changes and updates, it's not like the old SEO days where you have to wait for Google to come in and index you and spit it out. It's pretty quick.
Yeah, it is very, very quick. I mean, yes, that is exactly, the spreadsheet that I put together was very, very fast, and the tool, the kind of plug-in got like, hundreds of results in a very short amount of time, which was great. Okay, we have a lot to get through, so I'm going to truck on, and thank you for reading out those questions. Again, just stop me if you have questions. Just a few resources. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I've been publishing away. Which AI tool should you use? A social media manager's guide. I am teaching my class right now that's all about AI for social media. And so here we have a post that's all about that. I really created this for my students, but also any of you that are looking to understand some of the tools that are being used for different social media tasks. This is the comparison chart that I have in the post. So if you want more information, you can do a deep dive on that. My latest kind of thought leadership piece is this: AI marketing has a visibility problem. I featured this in my newsletter today. The key takeaway is that leadership loves AI, people implementing it, maybe not so much. I give some advice on if you are out there on the front lines trying to implement AI workflows and bring it in, that you want to make sure your work is visible to your leadership or to your client, right? Whether you are a consultant and you have a client who you're doing AI work for, or whether your boss is, but both have expectations right now around what AI can do. And we on the front lines need to make sure that our work is visible and that we are setting proper expectations. And if we're running into friction, we communicate that. That's really our job at this point. So that was what that piece is about. And if you want to learn more about that, you can dive in head first and get a whole lot more information on that. So the learning resource, so this interview with Felix Reisenberg from Claude has some really interesting um, some interesting components to it. And if it's a long listen, so if you don't want to listen to the whole hour and a half, you can always take the transcript and pull it into your favorite large language model tool and have it summarize it for you. But the reason I'm bringing this in, he said a lot of really interesting things, and anybody that would like, I love Claude so much, and they really have a very, very smart team, and they also have a lot of data behind the scenes. They have a lot of users, are doing a lot of things that position them well, I think. So I take their opinion to heart, right? And this is one thing that he said that I thought was brilliant, and I just wanted to share this with everyone and maybe get, folks' perspective. So yes, there's a lot of concern, and rightly so, with the labor market. But this is what he said. He said, when we talk about automating work, we find annoying in a lot of industries that work would have been given to a junior entry-level employee. Anthropic is deeply worried about labor market impact and believes society isn't grappling with it enough. He floated the idea of simulated jobs using AI to compress 3 years of career experience into accelerated learning environments. And I love that idea. And here's why. All of my undergrad students that are now heading out into the workforce, into this, they're all trying to get these entry-level jobs. Even if they can, or even if they become superpower AI users, which is, of course, what I'm trying to teach them how to do, they lack the experience needed to bring that judgment to the outputs right now. And we talk about this a lot as seasoned professionals, like, what do we bring to the table? Well, here's what we bring: 20 years plus of experience that helps shape your judgment. You have an eye for seeing when things don't look right. You can determine what good content even looks like based upon the strategy that you have built. My youngins don't have any of that. And so the question is, well, how do they get that? And I thought this was really a fascinating idea, to be able to potentially have AI help you create an accelerated environment where, okay, you have to pick a lane. And I tell my students, you guys have to pick a lane. Like, is it going to be B2B crisis comms? Is it going to be, consumer lifestyle? Like, whatever it is, you need to pick a lane. And even more importantly, like, pick a vertical. And then maybe you could do one of these accelerated learnings and just try to get spun up so that you could bring something to the table. Cynthia.
I am so happy. I'm going to listen to that interview because I kind of have the same opinion about Anthropic and the work that they're doing. They're being thoughtful. Like, I feel like they did a bunch of stuff, got to market fast like everybody else, but unlike everybody else, they are really doing some deep thinking about what I would call just the social impact. And when I say social, not social media, social meaning cultural, and how we move around in the workforce, right? Like, freaking everybody out that their jobs are going to be gone in 2 years. When the reality is, the closer you are to the customer, that is the last job that's going to be replaced, because human beings, no matter how much technology we get, we want to talk to another human at some point in time. And just look no further than social media, right? Like all the community that sprung up online, those people eventually wanted to see each other, right? And laugh and talk and do all the things. Well, unless you're going to turn out robots and replace all of humanity, guess what? That's not going away. And young people, my biggest fear for them is that they are going to miss the executive experience, executive thought process because of all the technology replacing the work where they would have normally learned that. So I love this idea of using AI to create learning environments for them so they know when they go into a meeting how to speak, right? Like you can't have the chat bot speak for you. You're going to have to open your mouth and have a conversation and speak to your executives and stick up for your work. AI can help teach you how to do that and do it faster than, when I was first in the workforce, how many weeks of sales training that I had to go to every year where they toss us in a room for 5 days, right?
Oh
Like
my
we don't really
gosh.
have the time. And now there's something to help us do that without having it to be 5 days. It could be half a day worth of training. But that executive function and interpersonal skill and maturity that, they're like, go into the office, you need that. Well, if you're telling them to go in the office and then putting them in front of something to work on AI, guess what? They might as well be at home,
Yeah.
right? Because they're still not going to get that interpersonal executive function experience that a 20, 30, 40-year person in the industry brings to the table. So I
Yeah.
love this. Sorry,
Oh,
that was a little long, but
no,
I
thanks,
just love that.
Cynthia. I love that. I saw Daleen, you have your hand up.
We've got two questions in the
Oh,
chat.
awesome. Okay.
One person is saying, okay, this is clearly advanced AI, and they're saying they're more of a novice. What's their best way to get their feet wet? And on the opposite side of things, we've got somebody saying, are you using AI-driven content repositories? Good for go-to-market, but also internal stakeholder alignment.
Yikesy. So I'm not sure. So this the first question, best way to get your feet wet is to use. Jump in and start using these tools. Become AI first. We don't want to use AI maybe for every task, but I like to start asking AI, bring it in early and see if it's something we want to use. If you haven't worked with AI at all, go to my resources page on my website, lisapayton.com/resources, and there's a lot of amazing stuff there that will help you. I've got my AI advanced prompting guide. I've got my meta prompting guide. I think my meta prompting is probably one of the biggest tips for people that are new. So get those guides and start there. And I could go on and on about starting places, but I think that's a good one. For the other question, I'm not quite sure I understand the thrust of that question. Maybe we put a pin in that and let me get through just a bit of the rest of the stuff because I have a lot to get through, and then we'll come back to that. And maybe after we're done, that person can voice that question a little bit so I can get a little bit more clarity on what they were asking for. Okay, thank you for bringing in the questions, Daily, and I really appreciate it. Here's a piece, and I'm going to pause. This one. I'm going to pause for a minute because I'm really curious to hear perspectives on this. My monthly newsletter called AI Unleashed that I put out on LinkedIn was about this new-ish idea that AI, our AI platforms are starting to be a reflection of our values. Everything is a reflection of our values. But now, given the latest developments between, the government, the Department of Defense, and Anthropic and OpenAI, we now are in a place where we need to think about things maybe a little bit differently, or maybe we don't. But I think the question here for everyone is, as marketing professionals on the front lines of this AI era, can we afford to not use a major AI platform due to its questionable political leanings? And that is my question to
Mm.
everyone. I asked the question in my newsletter. I didn't come up with an answer. I don't know how I feel about it. Anyone want to jump in?
I have an opinion.
Yes,
Um,
please.
I I think it's the same question we ask anytime we spend our money. We vote with our dollars. We vote with who we're supporting, what we're supporting. Um, and so I think that that's the most important thing is looking at it from that perspective of you're voting with your dollars. Who are you voting for? Who are you voting with. And I mean, I think about it when I decide if I'm going to get something off of Amazon or from Etsy or from the person down the street. So that's my opinion.
Well, and Daleen, let me follow up since you were brave enough to say just kind of step into this dumpster fire and answer first. Um, w- uh, do you, well, and I don't want to make any assumptions, but have you like
Yeah.
let's just be blunt, right? Like one of the major platforms potentially might be taking a stance that maybe we don't align with, and whichever side is you're on, it doesn't even matter, right? It's one or the other. Um, as a marketing professional, can you afford or a consultant or whatever to not to just say to flat out not use that platform at all?
I see, and I don't look at it like that. What I did was I pay $100 a month for Claude. Claude's my main go-to. I kept ChatGPT, and I may go back to free, but I may go down to the $20 one. I use it differently now. Claude is my workhorse for my business. Claude is the one where I feel honestly safest in there. I still use ChatGPT because I want to be able to keep my skills there and watch what's going on, but I use it for other things. I upload pictures of clothes in my closet and tell it to put me together a capsule wardrobe for a business trip. I use it for knitting. Um, I take a picture of something and how am I screwing this up? So I still use it. I still spend some money on it, but I shifted my budget with that in mind of thinking through the perspective of who's earning my money.
Yeah. Cynthia.
I like that. And I think when I think about it for me personally, I've become a lot more thoughtful about how I spend my money and where I spend it. And so, in some ways, this question says kind of answers itself in some way, because in my mind, like I'm like Daleen, like Claude is my primary go-to. Gemini is probably second, ChatGPT probably third, for very different reasons. None of them having to do with politics, by the way. Claude early on just gave me the results I was looking for. It was easier for me to like get what I needed out of it. And I still feel that way. Gemini has come so far, which is why I use it more. In the beginning, I didn't use it at all because it was crap in the beginning. And ChatGPT originally was the only thing we had. And then came Claude. So it was like, oh, we have something better. Now that we've got all these players, it's not from a political perspective I will think about it. I will still think about it, me, from more virtuous, right? Like, are you doing the things ethically that, because I want to align with ethical businesses as best I can, as often as I can. So I'll keep thinking about that. But there may come a time in this technology innovation and revolution that we have to ignore the politics and try all of them. So we know we cannot afford to just ignore the ones we don't agree with. But I think at the end of the day, like Daleen says, like, I'm going to do my darndest to put my money where the company that like is ethically operating in a way that I think makes sense for our community, and I mean our global community, and trying to better the world and trying to keep stuff out of harm's way, out of bad actors' hands, and all of those things that are important to me personally. I think that's probably the way I'm still going to do, is like vote with my pocketbook, which is then kind of like followed up with all those other things. But I wouldn't not look at something just because there was some politics I didn't agree with. I would probably evaluate, but then make my final decision on where I'm going to spend my money the same way I do it today.
Thanks, Cynthia. Awesome. I love that perspectives helping me kind of Alan, I see a hand up.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm curious about what would make it untenable to drop a platform. Like when we say, can we afford to not use a major AI platform? What are the parameters that would make us choose something that isn't aligned with our values? Why would that be a choice?
Because
As soon as they start charging you,
well,
start doing advertising. I mean,
No, I mean, so I agree with what people have said about aligning our pocketbooks with our values. That's really clear to me. What I'm saying is, what would lead me to choose ChatGPT if I feel they're unethical. And there's other things out there that are either higher performing or close enough performing that they're valid alternatives. Why would I choose something that a company whose ethics weren't aligned with mine?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've got my quick answer is number one, you might be working at a company, let's say an enterprise that only has that one LLM, then you're screwed. Then
Right,
it's like you quit or you use it. Okay. So
right,
so in some instances, if you're not a private consultant and you work for a company, they have you by the short hairs, like they do with many other things. Like, I don't know, like if you eat in the cafeteria and they only serve Pepsi products, like you're beholden, you have to go to, you know what I mean? Like, so that's one, but that's not my scenario. My scenario is, my livelihood is about teaching about AI for marketing. Could I potentially ignore or not learn about the biggest platform out there?
right.
I don't think
Okay.
I could. I think it would impact my pocketbook. Now, everybody else on this call isn't in my position. We all have our own unique position that we have to analyze through the lens, but it's, so there are reasons, I think, honestly,
No, I
Ellen, right?
that's really helpful to me
Yeah,
actually, because it's easy to get stuck in my own point of view, and I appreciate the opportunity to
yeah,
expand that.
yeah.
And even as a consultant, I go into clients and they have a tool set that they use, and I use, I've got clients who use Microsoft, clients who use Google, clients who use, so I always have to adapt to what my client is using. So that makes a lot of sense, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me
Yes.
better understand the broader perspectives.
Well, thank you for asking the tough questions. I love it. And I see Russell, you're waiting patiently with your hand up. Hi.
Yeah, hi, thank you. It's great conversation. I was actually just discussing some of this with my wife and another family member last night, and so it's one I've been thinking about a lot lately, and what's driven me to really adopt Claude more in any way that I can. But I'm also sitting at a company, a full time normal W-2 role at an enterprise that is invested and supports from an IT perspective ChatGPT, and that's the only one we can download a desktop app for, aside from Copilot, which I don't think is even worth bringing up. Apparently Copilot sometimes can run Claude's models, so there's maybe a breakaway there. But so I'm kind of in this position where I've been a heavy ChatGPT, is really solely ChatGPT user, aside from some experiments outside of that, but just leaning more and more away from it. Yet internally, we have groups that are building custom GPTs or launching trainings or doing other things, and they all come from ChatGPT. So when I have to jump into some of that stuff, it's through ChatGPT. I also have to be careful with data privacy and company policies around using the other one. So it's definitely a tricky balance, but I'm in that exact position of the company has invested in this, supports this, from a roughly apolitical standpoint. But I personally disagree with it. So I'm doing what I can and kind of exploring that balance. But right now I'm finding that, uh, the biggest, I think benefit, or the most helpful part of this is that I'm getting better results from my use with Claude, and I haven't even upgraded to a paid platform yet. And
Woohoo.
so I think that's my biggest hedge against this is, I could use this and keep using it, but my work's going to be better if I'm over here. And I haven't had to have that conversation yet. I honestly don't think I really will. But that's the position I'm in. So I think those, if we can kind of prove the value of one over here, eventually maybe it can also be adopted. But it was even brought up we have some internal AI workshops, and they're all centered around Chat GPT. And when I raised the question around Claude recently, someone actually brought up that, because of the company we are, and the fact that Anthropic was dragged into a supply chain risk conversation. There could be a point where if that proceeds, we could be functionally blocked from using that because of the relationships and the position our business is in. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But when politics goes from that level to a more legal level is when it's going to get really tricky.
Yeah, I don't thank you, Russell, for sharing. I really appreciate the perspective, and I don't think this issue is going to go away anytime soon. I think it's probably going to get more pronounced over the next several months. So just something for all of us to be thinking about. Let's keep trucking. Thank you, everybody for weighing in, and we can always pick up the thread after I go through some of my learning material. So I've been enjoying these bake-offs, and I've got one for everyone today. So I think one of the key things that I do from a content perspective is text-heavy imagery, whether that's you're creating, something, an infographic, or you're creating an image for social or whatever it is you're creating. So I have, let's take a look at some examples here. I'll go through these pretty quickly. First thing I did though, and I like to practice what I preach, is I went ahead to artificial analysis and took a look at the top models for text and typography. So you can see they've got an image generation leaderboard, and they've got lots of different categories. So depending upon the type of imagery you want to make, it will tell you the specific model that's better at that type of imagery. If you're new to AI, this really supports my thesis that we cannot only use one large language model. If you are, a typical content marketer that has many, many tasks that they are doing, then we need to really understand the superpowers of the different models. There are dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of models that are just purpose built to create imagery. And they fall into a lot of different categories. So for this particular category, the text and topography category, I was really shocked to see that Grok was number one. Closely followed, then we've got GPT, ChatGPT's image generator is number two, and then number three, Nana Banana, which if anybody's been following me, Nana Banana has definitely has been my favorite. So I was like, okay, let's do a bake off and see where we land. So so that's exactly what I did. And I did two tests, I did a B2B and a more business, and then a more consumer one for y'all. So same exact visual asset prompt. This was pretty detailed. I want, create a polished LinkedIn carousel cover slide for a B2B marketing presentation. I gave it, very strict color palette. I gave it a very strict copy direction with a headline, a subheadline. So pretty, tough-ish test, right? And hopefully looking to the ones that are going to really stick to the brief. So that was the prompt. Here's what Grok put out. I was like, let's test Grok first. It gave me, some options. I was not impressed. And if you look closely, you'll see that there's a lot of weird random crap on them. Like I didn't ask for it to say editorial premium, for example, right? So it just kind of botched it, in my view. So that I would say not usable is how I would classify Grok. That was probably the best one that it pumped out. ChatGPT, here's its option. Here's what it did. 5 AI content strategy shifts for 2026, what smart marketing teams are doing differently now by Lisa Payton. I mean, it definitely got the text right. The design elements are a little more subjective. Nana Banana, it also nailed the text. Again, you can love or hate the design. Now, here's some dark horses for y'all. I went ahead and tried Ideogram. This was, if you read my post on the top tools to use for social media, Ideogram was ranked as number one for text-heavy visuals. So I'm like, okay, let's try Ideogram. And it did a really nice job. I think this is, the cleanest. I think it hit the brief, did a great job. Like this, I think is usable. It's super, I think kind of high end. It looks great. So I thought that Ideogram probably won the bake off in this instance. Again, y'all might have your own opinion. And then I wanted to go ahead and bring in Canva AI. All of my students are using Canva AI. And I wanted to give it a go. There was a really good interview from one of the product developers at Canva, and they are doing some really cool stuff. And I'll show you one of my very favorite things that Canva is doing in a minute. But from this perspective, it did not do well. Unusable here, right? And the thing that I try to tell, it's like, oh my gosh, all my undergrads that use Canva for this, like they, for whatever reason, aren't fixing the typos. I'm like, why do you feel like it's okay to use these images with these errors? Like, No, this is not okay, you know? Anyway, so that's Canva. So that was let's quickly go. I'm going to go through some of the consumer. So for the consumer, it was just, this is more now, let's, whatever, wellness, 10 easy morning routines for a better day. It's a social media carousel cover slide for a wellness and lifestyle brand. And I have, again, very specific, editorial, cheerful, 1:1 square format, color palette, sunny, yellow, soft pink, blah, blah, blah. So here we go. Same platforms. Here was Grok. Sunny Payton, who doesn't exist anywhere, I don't think, in the world. Maybe she should. No, right? Not. Maybe I'll name, my next pet Sunny. I don't know. That was just so not good. ChatGPT, 10 easy morning routines for a better day. Not bad, right? I think this is kind of fun. I don't know what those weird little almondy looking things are. Are those supposed to be sugar cubes? I see. I don't know what those are. They're chocolate covered. Like, are they almond? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not sure what those are.
They
So that's
look
kind
like Jordan almonds
they
to
do.
me.
They look like Jordan almonds. They do, Ellen. Exactly. I'm like, what is that? Okay.
Martha said supplements. That's
Okay,
perfect.
okay, yes, maybe there's supposed to be supplements. That is a great answer. Nana Banana here. I thought Nana Banana knocked it out of the park. This is fun,
Yeah,
right?
this is
Like,
much better.
look
Yeah.
at that, beautiful, aspirational, blah, smiley face, all the things. So I thought it did a nice job there, and little weird little kind of yoga icon at the bottom. Ideogram, here's what Ideogram came back with. I think that it definitely nailed the text and it gave us some really nice options. I thought that was maybe one of the better ones. I think that's pretty clean and lovely. And then Canva, same thing, just the text is just way off. Lots of issues with text. So any questions? Anybody else want to weigh in? I'm happy to keep going. I love doing these bake-offs to kind of give you all a sense of what tools are out there and which ones you might want to run to. Ideogram certainly isn't in my everyday toolkit for this type of thing, but I think it will be now. It did a really good job. Here's a cool thing I wanted to show you all from Canva. So here's something that I created for a client. I used Nana Banana to create this. Daleen, do you have a quick question?
Oh, no,
Oh,
keep
oh,
going.
okay.
Just when you're done.
Okay. Okay. So Nana Banana, if you don't know what that is, for those of you that may be newer to AI here, is Google Gemini's now image generation tool. You can access the tool through the Google AI Studio, or you can access it through Gemini's interface. And if you want to access it through Gemini's interface, you have to click create image and then you have to make sure it's high thinking. Okay, so those are the two things that you have to have, image and high thinking. And then you can put in a very long prompt and come out get something like this. This took me 2 or 3 iterations. I used Google AI Studio, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I thought this was really impressive. You guys, all of the text was approved by client. The text is exactly what the client wanted. It was had the same colors as the brand. It had the same style photography that the brand wanted. It followed the brand guidelines pretty much exactly. But here's the problem with this, everyone. This is flat, meaning it's an image. There's no layers. I can't edit text. This is just a flat old image. Now, here's the good news. Canva now fixes this. So I can take this with Magic Layers, which is a brand new feature that Canva has built in. You can see it. That's where you would go and find it when you log into Canva. You go to Magic Layers. I can import this, and now all of this is editable. They create layers. So I can go in and edit the text in the same font. I can go in and change the colors. I can go in and change the logo. What a powerful tool. Now, this tool is powerful probably for a day until Google decides to add this capability to Google AI Studio, which will happen anytime. But for now, Canva owns this, and it's a really awesome thing. And a funny story, and then Daleen, I'm going to let you, when I first did this for my client, which was now 2 weeks ago at most, Magic Layers didn't exist. So, and what I had to do, because it didn't exist, there were like the first iteration of this thing did have some text errors, right? I'd have to go through reprompt, get it to be as clean as I could, and then pull it into Canva, and there would still be a few places that I'd have to make tweaks with, drawing the box over and bringing in the text, right? Kind of like we used to do with whiteout on a typewriter. Remember those days? Okay, so I had to do that, but now, with Magic Layers, I would not have had to do that. So that's my trick that if you're doing this kind of work, hopefully you'll find it to be valuable. Daleen, take it away.
All right, I've got a comment on a workflow that I used, and then there's two questions in the chat.
Awesome. Great.
So I actually have been using Claude Cowork to do images, not images necessarily like this, but it will do graphs for me now. It will do tables and charts and things like that. I ended up doing, but here's the key. I discovered when I ended up needing to do a 150-page deck that the core things that I needed were two things. One is I created a markdown file based on my visual brand guide that I had anyway. And then two, I created a voice and tone guide based off of the way I write, words I never use, things I would never say, how to say things in research language versus things that are definitive, those kinds of things. Those two documents now go with me to any project that I work in. And I created the same thing for a client that didn't have a brand guide to begin with, based off their website. What can we infer from the way their website is designed and the language that's being used on it? Can we start with this base layer of a markdown file for visuals and a markdown file for voice and tone? So those two files have been extremely helpful to me and extremely helpful to my clients.
Yes.
So I wanted to say that.
And before you ask questions, I want to echo that. I think at this point, anybody that is on this call, you are now considered an advanced AI user, like it or not, and it is table stakes. We have to give our large language models the context, and I think those, at the very least, the style of your writing and your brand, those though you have to get used to doing that. And I will say, Claude now has made it so easy. So one of the things that I was using, and many of you have heard me say this before, so Claude is my strategic thinker. I go to it always first, and I use it for a lot. However, ChatGPT still does a really good job with creative writing, particularly titles and headlines. Like ChatGPT is my go-to for a really good, bold, punchy headline. ChatGPT has always been better than Claude. Well, the other day it pumped out its, like as usual, and I'm always testing both to see, and I was like, oh my God, this headline is so much better. So I took the really good headline, took it back to Claude. I'm like, Claude, what do I need to tell you to give me this kind of headline? And within like 30 seconds, not only had it analyzed exactly what I needed to tell it, it had created its own skill called Headline Creator that is now part of my skill set on Claude. So every time I have it write a headline, it now pulls in that skill and will give me the headline. And I've tested it, and it is as good now as ChatGPT, everyone. So you can build skills. The skill can be your brand style guide. The skill can be your voice. The skill can be whatever. Get it, have it save it, put it in the library, and then it will just use it every time it pulls the skill, and you don't have to tell it over and over and over again. So do that. That's how we as, advanced users get content out of AI that's not slop, that's not generic, that's not boring and stupid, because we have to give it the context, and that's on us, like to do that. So, okay, love that. Good, good, good. Pro tip came out of that. And now questions.
Okay, so there's two. One is, can the images that are being created online be used without rights issues, specifically images? So I think they're basically asking, if it creates an image, is there any copyright issue? And then the second one is anybody working with Adobe AI?
Yes, Adobe. First of all, Adobe is great, and it's interesting that you ask about Adobe. So, first of all, anything that is generated exclusively with AI at this point has been deemed that you cannot copyright it. So if it's 100% AI generated, you can't copyright it, which means that anything that's created right now out there with AI is completely common use and you can and open to use. No, right? So there's that. here's the challenge then. So if you're a brand and you're thinking, well, and here, so the real challenge is like if you think about a tool like Midjourney, who has been embroiled in some lawsuits because artists are suing Midjourney because Midjourney trained its model on its imagery without giving them any money. Blah blah blah. Long story short, Midjourney does not provide any kind of any protection to companies that might use Midjourney. Let's say you use Midjourney to create artwork for a global ad campaign, right? And it looks like the style of another artist, and now all of a sudden that artist is suing your brand, right? That's the fear, and that could happen. So if you are a very risk-adverse brand, you want to use a tool like Adobe because Adobe is one of the safest tools to use because their model, which historically has not been anywhere near as good, it only is trained on its own proprietary images, and therefore it is providing indemnity protection to the brands that are using the Adobe suite of tools. Now, there is a caveat. Adobe has now decided, oh, because designers were upset that the Adobe Firefly image gen wasn't as good as the Midjourneys or the others, it now allows you to choose the platform, including, all the ones. So if you choose a platform that is not the Adobe proprietary platform, you will not get that protection. So just know. So the short answer is no. If you create something that is 100% AI, you cannot copyright it. Anyone can use it. It needs to be significantly edited in order to have it be copywritten, and that right now is in the courts pending. Like, what does that even mean, right? Who knows? If I put text overlay, does that count, or like where does the line? Um, so if you need protection, you're going to want to use a tool that offers those protections, and they change. So you're going to probably want to do some homework. I know that Midjourney provides none, and of course, it's my very favorite one because the outputs are amazing. Stefan, hello, welcome from Germany.
Hi
Hi.
everyone.
Hi.
Sorry, Lisa, but I have to keep up my hand because of that. It's very interesting for me to follow such discussions. But I want to recommend if you need a tool with very strict regulations for building images, have a look to Flux One. It's a German tool. It's Black Forest from Black Forest here in Germany, and you all know it's under the European laws. It's very strict laws, and you can use it. It had a little bit slight problems with texts in images, but it's a very good tool, I think.
Thank you, Stefan. Yes, it is constant. That tool from Black Forest is consistently in the top, ranked amongst the top models, and it is number one for several use cases. It's an awesome tool, so I love that you're bringing that in. That's a really good recommendation. Let's go through. I just got a few more slides, and then we're going to open it up to discussion. And we're almost at our hour. I don't know where the time goes. This is where I might break things. I did a video bake off, everybody. So here we go. I wanted to show you all something that I did with VO just to try to get you all kind of getting y'all into Google AI Studio, and I'm going to give you a really good reason why. So if you want look no, if you on LinkedIn, I share my newsletter, and every time I share, not every time, but most of the time when I have time, I will try to do an AI generated kind of social loop, right, kind of video loop to go with it. So the one that I did for today, I had a prompt. I did my meta prompting. I took the starting image, which you're seeing here, and then I had my large language model write the prompt to take this image as a starting frame and create a looped video to promote through social. I love VO, so here's what I did. I went ahead and created, this was the first iteration. I created this with that exact prompt, that exact starter image in the Gemini interface. In other words, you pull up Gemini and you're like, oh, create video, right? That's what this is what you are seeing here. This didn't hit the brief at all. And I actually tried doing it twice. I went back to my large language model and like that didn't work. It totally changed my image and gave me something different. Let's try it again. I tried it a second time and it still didn't hit the brief. Now, this might be kind of a cool video, but it definitely isn't matching the image that I wanted it to match. Okay, this is where things break, everybody. Okay, no. All right. This, on the other hand, look at this. Is this not amazing? This is like sexy. I am in love with this. This is Google AI Studio, and I could watch it again and again because it just nailed it. It did such a good job. So this is VO 3.1 Google AI Studio, and then the final thing here. So and here's the deal. So same platform. One was in the AI Studio where you get access to the latest models, you get to kind of you get more, you have more control, and the output was made like so much better. So my key takeaway for all of you, if you're creating visual content with Google, it's worth it to log into Google's AI Studio if you haven't already. It's very easy to do. They make it very easy. You need an API license, but they make it very easy. It's like you get it in a click, and then they're going to charge you per output. But I know if you're non-technical or whatever, it's easy. I'm happy to walk through it if you have questions on how to do it, but it's well worth the time because the output is just like so much better. And then the final tip, once I had that beautiful video created, I then take that video download it, I bring it into Canva where I wrap it here with my branding, and then this is how I get my final video for today. So I think it looks pretty cool. I wanted to share with you all my workflow on that one. Okay, that is the end of the bake-off, and I've got AI resources. I think everybody knows what they are. My newsletter is probably the best place to go. I put out my newsletter every week. It's on LinkedIn. You can also have it directly sent to your inbox if you want it. And then we open it up for questions, and I see Kim, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi, thanks.
Hi.
With the video in your first iteration, when you went back to edit your prompt, assuming for the moment you were using Claude, were you using Claude?
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Can Claude see the video? Did you bring the video in also?
No,
It can't.
It cannot. So I had to tell it. I was like, I
Yeah.
had to speak it and be like, oh, it totally didn't even use the image. So I had to tell it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. But that being said, another pro tip, it can see images to Kim's point. So if you're doing a static image and you don't get what you want, you can always take that image back and it can see it just like a creative director can, and can totally update the prompt to give you something that's going to be more aligned with what you want. I do that often, and it's remarkable how much more quickly you'll get a really good result if you do that versus you just trying to sit there and like reprompt yourself. Like it's such a waste of time, in my opinion. It takes like 10 times as long. Who else has other questions? We're at our hour, everyone. Am I missing any in chat, Daleen? Do you want to shout any out?
I don't see any in chat. I think you've covered it all.
Please feel free to unmute everyone if you have any comments or feedback.
I did put the link for Black Forest Flux in chat for everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellen.
Hey, Lisa, it's Martha. I just had a quick question on, have you figured out a way in Gemini to save those skills that you can save in ChatGPT? Because I like the other person who responded, I upload it every time. Have you figured out a way to do that?
So there is something in Google called gems. Has anybody worked with Google? So gems, in my understanding, are like custom GPTs. So they're not quite a skill, but they're a custom GPT. So does anyone I have not worked extensively with gems. Thanks, Esther, for joining. Thank you so much for joining today. And those of you that have to drop, thank you so much for joining. I'll send out the recording. So great question. I think maybe gems might be a way. Anyone else have
I'll give it a
feedback for
try.
Martha?
This is Therese. I've used GEMS and I've used ChatGPT, and I find ChatGPT does a better job. And I also use
agree.
Claude. I use Claude too, just for comparison and who does a better job. This is for writing. I'm just working on infographics. Now that I have some sample ones, I have to figure out how I put the branding in for our client. So I'm learning step by step.
Awesome.
I like GPTs, and that's pretty much what we build for the main client that I've got. I built gems, and I'm also now starting to build out in Claude projects. So I like them all, but I prefer if I'm going to do over and over and over again tasks, I prefer custom GPTs.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I think from my perspective, the Claude skills are pretty unique in that and how easy they have now made them to build. They haven't always been this easy. When skills first launched, it was harder to build skills, but now with Opus 4.6, being so incredibly smart, I mean, it just does it all for you, and it's just so intuitive and so easy. I mean, it built that skill for me without even asking if I wanted it to. It just did it, and it was remarkably easy. I just clicked, like I had it. It built the skill. It had a little thing, and it just had a download button, and so I could read what the skill was to make sure I didn't want to edit it in any way. And then once I was like, oh, this looks great, I just clicked download, and it went right in my skills folder. And now every time it writes a headline, it automatically pulls in that skill. I don't even have to tell it to anymore. So it's really a nice feature. I mean, I think Claude is just crushing it. That's my
Claude is crushing it. Can I just also say the ability to create slides in Claude is fantastic.
Amazing.
So I actually just dropped my Gamma subscription because I would have to go in and write it and then go to Gamma and then download it and then finesse it. And now I just basically I drop in a color palette from the client and I just say, these are the colors. Then I ask Claude to write up, 4 to 5 slides, and Claude will crank them out and they're client ready in the colors and the fonts, which is great. And then you can still edit it on the back end, but it takes out so much time and the slides are so much better. They're amazing. And by the way, Lisa Payton, the class that we're taking, if you went through the linguistics tool and you take that linguistics code and you pair it with like your megadoc and then you drop it into Claude, you will get amazing stuff back out of it.
nice.
Just FYI.
What
So,
what class are you guys talking about?
Lisa,
agentic.
we're
We're
taking
taking
it.
Oh,
an agentic class and learning how to build agents. And it's great. It's mind blowing. I think it kind of blew up my brain for the last 2 weeks.
who teaches it?
But
Uh,
uh, how much?
Tyler Fisk. If you go to Maven and you can put actually we should put the link. Lisa, put the link in and get some referral credits.
Oh,
Tyler
I don't have
Fisk
it,
on
but
Maven.
we should do it because if you sign up now, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, 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 no. Yeah. Here's the thing that I'll say. Yes. So we're taking an agentic course on Maven. Tyler, if you look, Tyler Fisk and Sarah teach it. It's called How to Scale Your Business with AI. I think the current cost of the course is, what is it, about $800? I don't know. Here's the deal, and here's why I'm not talking a lot about it, you guys. So my goal, I've been taking this course. I've been working on this course now for 3 months, and it's really, really, really super in the weeds.
Yes.
The use case is not totally marketing, right? It's not content marketing. It's for all sorts of businesses. This is my third workflow build. So I've gone through, and it's lovely. They give you anyway, this is my third build with this thing. And it does get easier every time. And this third one, I'm building building a special tool for my favorite students, which is you all. So you'll get to test it, but I think it's going to be, I'm calling it a kind of an AI blueprint builder, and I'll reveal more about the tool, but it's going to be specific for marketing, and I think it's going to be a really cool tool that I'm building. But anyway, long story short, this I mean, what I'm hoping to do is take what I'm learning and distill it into something that will be digestible for content marketers, because I think that's really what's needed. I don't think what they're teaching is good for everyone. It's very,
It's
very,
hard.
it's very, very technical. And here's the deal. So I started whatever it was, I started now, however many weeks ago, a couple months ago, and the tools have exponentially now made it easier and easier and easier to do the thing. So the way they were teaching this as little as like 6 weeks ago has totally changed, because now they've got additional like coding tools and co-pilot tools that are just taking on more and more and more of the heavy lifting. So by, very soon, y'all, I mean, it's already happening. Like you don't need it's just going to get so, I mean, like just like this Claude skill that I built it built for me in 5 seconds. That used to take someone like probably a day, right? Well, now Claude just does it in 5 seconds. And so that's that. But anyway, I digress. But I will say though, what we all need to be thinking about, and we can think about it all the time when is, every day now, I have at least probably four-ish AI tools open at once, and I'm constantly just orchestrating them. And that's what we need to be thinking about. How are we orchestrating and pairing our LLMs together to kind of find all of their strengths to leverage and get the best output? Right now, I just like I'll have the tabs open and I work directly with my LLMs and all, but eventually there will be frameworks and infrastructure that will create these end-to-end workflows for us, right? And that I think building those, understanding those will be the next era of AI marketing. And it's already happening, but I think so the smarter we can get about workflows, like so why I'm taking this very much in the weeds course right now, is I think it's going to help me learn. So, but before we digress, I want to say, Lisa Oda, this is such a perfect example with Gamma. So for those of you that were in my advanced class months ago, we had a whole thing on Gamma, didn't we? Remember, like we like did a whole
I
right?
loved
We had a
Gamma for
whole
a
we had
year.
a whole deep
Yeah,
dive on Gamma, but
yeah.
now I couldn't agree with you more. I ran I don't even anyway, yes, and yes, Claude does an acceptable job now at putting out client ready slides. Amazing, right? This is such a
It's
huge,
amazing.
huge
It's
thing.
amazing.
I did the exact same thing. So what I did, the exact same thing. I don't know if you guys remember, I had this like awesome template. I had a whole PowerPoint template that I put into my colors, and I had this, and I just took that PowerPoint template that was branded with my colors, gave it to Claude, and it output something that was so good. And I just used it as is. I didn't do any editing with it at all. So this is a great example of how Gamma is going to go away. Gamma will they're going to try to and I noticed actually that Gamma just released its own now AI image gen. Like they're trying to do a lot of things, but I think Gamma's probably going to become irrelevant very soon. And this is just a
I would
really good
agree.
example,
I
right?
would agree. And the other thing that Claude, with that slide piece that with the capabilities, I think it's going to change the way, like the company that I'm going into uh, in my new role is like the head of brand was like, "Oh, this is changing the way that I'm thinking about building templates for slides because traditionally you'd build like this huge slide deck and people would go in and pick and choose and there'd be all these variants, but you don't have to do that now. You could create like a 5 slide deck and people could create them or you could go directly into Claude and build it there and then port it over and then tweak it." So she was like, "Well, we don't need a slide deck that's got 60 slides in it for people to customize because you don't need it." And so like I think it's also going to change the way that companies think about how they do their work internally because it makes it so much easier and way more efficient.
Yeah, I totally agree. Kim, you have a hand up. You've been waiting very patiently.
Yeah, so just based on what you were saying about the class and digesting it, does that mean that you're going to teach another class?
Yes, let's so probably and that's the kind of
Sounded like it.
that's the final question I like to end on every time. So those that maybe missed last time. So my right now I am planning something, and I would love to get input from those that haven't given any input on what your needs really are. Um, right, I can give you a loose sense of what the concept is right now. The concept is right now bucketing everything I've done. Like, you think about that foundational course, which is really all about marketing strategy, isn't it? It's like I go from like research, I have my framework of strategy. It's like if you don't know how to do content marketing strategy, my first course will teach you that. So taking all of that, taking all of our beautiful lessons from advanced, creating a big library where folks will have access to all of that, and then running what I'm going to call it like a kind of an ongoing advanced community, if you will, that because that things change so much. It'll be cohort based. My hope is that once you sign up, that you'll just ride along and we'll just you'll just stick with it for, and we'll have lessons that are based on the latest tools and the latest capes of the day. It'll be, live demos, very much like we did with advanced, but you'll have access to a library of stuff too. That's my thinking right now. I don't have time to launch it before it'll probably launch in the fall. is my thought. So in the meantime, I want to do these monthly touch points because they're awesome and I learn a lot and have a lot of fun with them. So we've got our monthlies that will lead up to the fall. If I have time. Now, all this is writing on the caveat that I don't get any really big client work or, I just have to, bandwidth has been so tough, y'all. So tough. Oh my gosh. I'm booked all the way through summer with stuff, but in fall, I think I might have some time and I've been thinking a lot about it. So what do you guys want? Like that's my thought, but like what do you guys need from like what would you be willing to pony up for?
That.
Yay.
Same.
Okay.
Same.
Okay. Something. Yeah.
Yeah. Having that community touch point, I think, would be so useful for all of us, and for being able to add people in who are practitioners and who are saying, guess what I did yesterday? Or, I, like Lisa said, I dropped Gamma because of this. Those things move so fast that having that community would be amazing, Lisa.
Yeah, I think so too. Let me ask a quick, just a logistical question since y'all are my primary audience. Um, One thing that I will say, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but right now, the ease of how AI and our beautiful kind of large language models integrate with some of these tools are really expediting and kind of incentivizing me to use them. For example, Notion and Slack. Like every LLM out there integrates with Notion and Slack. Like I can, and so it's like I used to hate Slack and I'd certainly never used Notion, but now I am using both like all the time because there's these like all my workflows can be triggered with a Slack message or like it's so I'm curious. Like I don't think Maven has the infrastructure alone to give us what we need. I would want something more robust. Slack channel is my go-to. Is anybody like what are your thoughts on how do we what is the infrastructure for our community? Is everybody okay with Slack? Do people hate Slack? Like I don't know.
I love Slack, and I would love it if we could cover Notion a little bit more. I think you did it in one of your earlier cohorts. But to your point, I'm starting to see it pop up, especially with this class. Everything is served up in Notion. And I was like, okay, I think there's a there, and I need to use it more. Especially, saving prompts and I mean, getting organized for this class has been my biggest challenge. Like my docs are all over the place.
I
And if
know.
I could figure that piece out, I feel like, my life would be so much better. And I think there's a thing there with the Notion and I also think with maybe with Slack.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's the biggest challenge with like, so this course that I'm taking now, for example, that we're taking has so much, like mind-blowing amounts of content, like so much. I mean, there are prompt libraries, there's like, videos, there's transcripts, there's like office hours, like, I mean, the list, there's like, I mean, there's just so much, you guys. It's so, and it's like, I don't know if they're like what is the best tool to have a easily accessible archive of all this content where we're not scrambling trying like that's it's like it reminds me of my days at Intel where like oh my God they're like finding anything on their shared thing was like it took 3 hours like that was the longest thing it's like I didn't have time to go in and try to find the brand guide because it would take me 3 hours to find it in the it was so hard and I'm feeling a little bit of that right now so just trying to make sure that it's organized in a way that's manageable. And I don't know what tool is the best tool for that. Slack is limited in the amount of stuff you can archive, I think.
I've used Notion, but
Yeah,
would
you've used
be
Notion.
up for whatever
Yeah, if
works.
anybody has thoughts.
Does it count if I've thought about using Notion?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it does.
Lisa, so I'll send you, I'd have to pull it up, but there's a group that I'm a part of that's called CMO Coffee Chat.
Hmm.
And we meet once a week on Fridays at 8 in the morning, and it's a big group. Are you familiar with it?
No, no,
Okay. There's a couple thousand people in this group, and
amazing.
they have their Slack channel is super well organized, and that's what I'll send you a screenshot of. And that's basically how they work it. It's there's one meeting on Fridays. Actually, on this particular one, they're like they don't allow any recordings. You've got to show up to get the content,
Hmm.
and then because they want it to be a safe place for people. And then everything else, it happens on Slack, and it's robust on Slack, but it's also very well organized. I'll send you a screenshot of it.
Please do. Is it
Yeah.
possible to, how do you get an invite to the group? It sounds like an awesome one.
So they want the criteria is supposed to be that you're either currently a CMO or that you've been one in the past, and they check your LinkedIn profile too. But you know what? You may be able to talk. Let's connect offline because you may be able to join by maybe hosting one of their sessions. Let's talk a little bit.
Okay, I would love it. I would love it. That sounds awesome, Daleen. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Well, my lovelies, I feel like, does anybody who's been lurking? I know we've got some folks. Anybody want to introduce themselves? That's new. So, a few of you have been hanging on, and if you want to introduce yourself, we are always open to that. We're a very welcoming community here. And I think, was it Serge? I think you asked the question if I would share the deck. I'm happy to share the deck. I don't typically share the deck, but since you've asked for it, I'm happy to. Maybe I just request, maybe you want to send me an email, Serge, and I'm happy to send that deck directly to you since you asked for it, if that is doable. It's just lisa.payton@gmail.com. Okay, anybody Hi, Serge, you want to introduce yourself? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think I click on the link to join a meeting. I don't know what meeting it was, and here I am.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Hopefully this was relevant for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything's about AI and marketing. I'm always there. And this was really interesting for me. And also, I mean, I put in the chat another question about what tools or material I could use to prepare a course about AI and marketing, because I am an AI engineer and also preparing a course to teach professionals how to use AIs in the daily life. But as I'm technically, I mean, all the stuff I do is coding, so I don't really know how to help and give them something that will be useful in the daily tasks. And don't know if I could have some tips on that.
So if I'm hearing the question correctly, you're looking for help teaching or building course materials, and you're an engineer, and that's maybe not your strong point.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
I've tested a few, so love the group. If there anybody wants to share, I have tested a few. There are quite a few, I would say, AI enhanced out of the box course development tools out there. Daleen, you may know of a few of them, or others that are in ed tech. I haven't tested them in a long time, Serge. The ones that I did test was probably 2 years ago, so I'm assuming they were better, but they were really bad. They weren't good. They were not good tools. Like, oh, they were awful. When I'll tell you the way. So the way I develop my curriculum, full transparency, I work with Claude. Claude is my strategic thinker. Like I will go to Claude and I'll be like, okay, I would work with Claude. I would be like, I wanted to create a course on X, ask me questions and develop the strategy, do all the work with Claude. And then at the end of the day, Claude, you might have to one cool, like the way I tend to do it is like I have Claude as my strategic thinker, and then I might go to Perplexity or Gemini to get research, right? So let's say you need to you can have Claude serve up some prompts to go and get some awesome research to bring in to help build your curriculum, right? That's another. And then at the end of the day, once it's all ready to go, it'll now, like Lisa was saying, just put all of that beautiful developed content that you have worked with Claude on into a presentation format for you. That's just, I know that's like the less than 5 minute version but that's how I do it. So anybody else have thoughts on how you might want to build some core AI enhanced
or they could hire you to come in and do the teaching.
There you go. Billy, thank you. Thank you.
I am based in France, and I don't know if you guys so I'm really far from.
Yes, Marianne, we've got Marianne. Marianne is here. She's in Paris. Hi, Marianne.
I'm here. Hi, everyone. It's been actually super nice to hear from everyone and again learn plenty of things. So
bonsoir.
Great to be here.
Mon ami. Yes, go ahead, Daleen.
Serge, I've got 2 tips for you. So one is, if you're if your website is on WordPress, I used Tutor. It's like tutor.com or something like that, but I didn't really like it. I picked it because it was the cheapest one, but it did help me develop some stuff. My
Okay.
friends that do this the most use Kajabi. Um, there's, but it honestly, it's not cheap. So
Mm.
I would build, I would make sure you're getting business in the door before you invest in Kajabi because it's at least $100 a month, and I think it goes up to 200 a month if you've got multiple courses. But that's what I've heard is that Kajabi is the best.
Mm.
Okay, thank you. Actually, what I was looking for is about the content of the course, because like as I'm in the technical stuff, I was thinking about is it good to teach people how the AI system works? I mean, how does LLM generate tokens? Is this something relevant for people who are in marketing or not?
That's an interesting question. I think that I think all of us need to have a certain level of understanding around what's under the hood. I also think that if we go to, we don't need to have, an engineer level understanding. And I think
Okay.
that's one of the things that I had to like, so I've taken quite a few certification programs, like, Berkeley has one that from their Haas Business School, for example. It was a good program, but oh my Lord, there was like tons of like in the weeds stuff that I did not need to know. So it's a balance, Serge. It's a balance. And I think really understanding the content marketer, understanding the audience, is key to making sure that you've got the right kind of level of technical information because I just what I know of this audience, that course that Lisa Oda and I are in, I think is too technical for this audience. I and just some, I have a background of coding. I was building websites when before WordPress, right? So I started off actually as a website builder. I learned HTML, I learned CSS, like I learned how to build, like I learned all of that early in my career, which I think has set me up in a way that makes me a little more technical than your average content marketer. And this course for me is even really, really, really hard. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. But so the answer is yes. I think that we all need to understand some of it, but we just have to be mindful not to scare the audience away with eye-crossing information.
I would agree with you, Lisa Payton.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay,
Thanks, Lisa
thank
I
you
feel
Oda.
like
on
it's
that
taken a couple
question.
of years off my life.
Oh my
So
God. I have like neck crick. It's so hard, you guys. It's so
it's
hard.
so hard.
Oh my God. And I was talking to Billy about so Billy Goldman, my best friend, is here and she's my sounding board for all this stuff. She gets all the and I, at one point, so the first so I've as I said, I've built several tools. So the first tool that I built in this course, I did it for an actual client. And holy shit, it took me so long and it was so hard. At the end of the day, like I- I'm just like a part of me was sitting there as I'm doing the user prompts. I mean, I was just like, okay, like, is this the best use of my time? Is this where I want my career to go? I was like, do I even want to be doing this kind of technological user prompting blah, for like no, I don't think I really do. I'm like, I don't think this is the right path for me in a way. So it was good. It was eye-opening for me to learn that, and I had to go through it to learn it. But I will also say that, and I think I mentioned this to Billy and I will say it again, probably, and maybe even it's as soon as today, y'all, like the 10 hours, the 20 hours I spent building the user prompts, you don't have to do that shit anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy. And like, do I need to have that skill now? 6 months from now, I probably won't need to have that skill. So why am I sitting here struggling, like spending all this time developing a skill? It's like the Flash coding that, if you remember building Flash websites, it is like that, right? Like we all learned how to build Flash. It was so hard. Like you had to have, it was tough. And then we build these like expensive Flash websites. And then within 6 months, nobody wanted them anymore. And you're like, oh my God, it took me like 3 years to learn how to do it. And in 6 months, nobody wants them. I feel like that's kind of where I was at building all these user prompts and like learning all this shit, right? Marianne, where it's like, I'm not going to ever use this again. So I think we all have to be really mindful because the last thing any of us have time for, yes, and it's expensive, is wasting a lot of time, burning through hours, especially if you're a consultant, especially if you're doing billable hours. You
I don't
know,
even know how you would charge for that because like the amount of time to build the agentic workflow, like I'm glad I did it, but the amount of time it would take me to build that without all the help, I'd probably need like, I mean, I'd say roughly maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and I'd be crunching every single day. And then I'd probably burn through all the credits because I've already gone through credits like twice. So I was like, wow, I'd have to pay probably, I mean, just at a bare estimate, maybe $500 to $1,000 to pay for all the tokens. And then I'd have to spend all the time. And so to price it out, it would be horrendously expensive because I was originally thinking that I could do it for my new company. And then I'm like, no, I don't think I can do it. It's going to be financially, it's going to be too expensive.
Yes, exactly. It's very expensive. It's incredibly time consuming. The other thing that I'll say here, so Tyler Fisk, the guy who runs the thing, is very, very technical. He's like an engineer. I think some of what he is showing is probably over engineered for what we need, Lisa. You know what I'm saying? Like he is like a set, whatever, six.
Yay.
I mean,
Thanks for saying
no,
that.
it's true because he's a six agent workflow that's like for many of our use cases, we don't need all of that. It's great to learn it and have it's very complex, but I'm like, oh my God, this is so over engineered. So, and that's the kind of thing that trying to figure out right now that I'm struggling with is like figuring, okay, what do we really need to know? What's a framework we can use to bring it down, like to a place that we can actually use it? And there's work and time that it takes for me to kind of to do that, and it's right. Everything's just very hard right now, everybody. Stefan
Yeah, I mean, so I
has a
think,
hand up. Oh, go
oh,
ahead,
sorry,
Lisa.
I'll just be quiet. So
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Stefan, and then we'll get back to Lisa.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Oda, he's saying go. Go for it.
So all I was going to say is I think what's needed is some simple workflows that apply to marketers. And I think, to your point, we could do it much simpler. So like, things that I've been thinking about are, hey, when I work on content, let's say that I'm writing, thought leadership pieces for a client. Okay, that's just the very base level. Like it would be great to have a simple workflow where it's like, okay, somebody does I give the ideas. Somebody takes that and builds out like an outline, maybe Claude, and then writes the first draft. It comes back to a human. I take a look at it. Then it goes into like, how do we optimize this for AEO? And then how do we humanize this? And then drop it in so that I can have the final draft. That's the kind of stuff where I think you could make it much more simpler. And I was thinking about the whole time when we were going through the class and writing those prompts that were like, 60 pages and all that kind of stuff. I think I get where they're going, and there's some interesting, like, it's a great way to see it. I just think to your point, and I'm so glad you said it's over engineered because I was trying to think if it was just me. But then I realized in the middle of like, whoa, my brain is ready to explode. So I think if we put something together and like wrapped it around like more applicable marketing, specificity, hey, there's a new thing going on. Let's write a social post. And this is what it would look like. And then it comes back to the human, check it, and then it goes out to LinkedIn. That's the kind of stuff I think that, at least for me, would be most helpful.
Yeah, I love that, Stefan, I'll let you go, and then I want to pile on and add to that.
Uh, no, just two recommendations, two small recommendations. As I mentioned several times, I think I'm reading a lot of newsletters from the US, and I myself got a recommendations. I got a recommendation 365datascience.com. You can have free courses from all the tools. Yeah. And additionally, I saw Claude offers a Claude certified architect course. So you can have a look at that and
yes,
whether it fits to you.
Needs or not. Yeah, thank you for that. There are a lot of really awesome free learning resources out there. That is for sure. And my experience has been many of those free resources. They might have some good marketing use cases, but they're definitely not, totally. And even within the marketing use cases, more specifically content marketing, like, sometimes is questionable. Here's the thing, and again, you guys are just really sticking around, so I really appreciate it. And Lisa and Daleen, you're two, and like your guys are so awesome. Here's my question as we start thinking about, like, let's take your example, Lisa. Like, right, like, okay, it seems fairly straightforward. And in fact, just the other day, I was reading a case study where some dude in Australia did exactly what you said, but he did it for a client. Like he set up a workflow. I think he probably used NAN or Gumloop or some one of those kind of easy one, probably one of the ones we used, during our advanced thing. Zapier, I don't know, whatever it was, to build a thing like exactly what you said that was for the client. That's like, okay, here's the problem statement. We've got 300 subject matter experts. None of them have time to write any kind of thought leadership content. We want a tool that will help them write awesome content. That it'll provide them a draft. They can basically edit and check off, and then we have the finished product. He built a thing that did exactly. He had a tool that did the concepting and the ideation of the topics, and the topics fed into the thing that then would write the draft, would feed into the thing that went to a Google Sheet, that went into the thing that then this SME only had to like log in, and we're like, anyway, it's a really nice workflow. And they ended up publishing, and were able to publish like hundreds more our thought leadership articles than they were able to in the past, right? Which is kind of like what you just explained. Here's the real challenge though. Like, every company has different tools, and going in and trying to create that system it's going to be unique at every different company, right? So how do you teach, so it's teaching a framework or teaching something that is flexible enough that you could take it into a client that's on, this client uses HubSpot and Salesforce and ChatGPT, or this client has their own enterprise, LLM. I mean, it's like a shit show right now of like trying to, and that's the challenge that I'm having. The one client, that I had all of his tools and stuff, it was like so hard to figure out, like, okay, where do I even start figuring out? And to be honest with you, this is kind of this tool that I'm trying to build, this blueprint builder thing, is a bit of trying to solve for that, kind of trying to help give like an initial assessment of like, here's where the company is, here's what they're using, here's just an initial direction, because I'm really struggling with that. I don't know if anybody else is.
I think what Tyler and Sarah did that was smart was they picked one tool to kind of springboard from so that you learn the process versus being kind of wedded to a tool.
Would you ever use
And
Cassidy for a client?
maybe, and only because you can pick amongst the models, and I'm green, so maybe there's other tools out there.
So
But
expensive.
I know it's super expensive. It's like 79 bucks a month, by the way, for anyone here. And I ran out of tokens twice. So that's why I'm kind of estimating it's got to be about 250 bucks a month for that, maybe more. Um, but I think, what I've started doing is I've started building a lot of my stuff in Claude because I like it. And then I've been asking Claude to retrofit it for ChatGPT or Gemini. So like I'm building my master kind of systems instructions and the things that I'm doing. And then I've asked Claude, like, break it up so that I can go use this and create custom GPTs, or I could go in and use it and create a gem. And so that's kind of where I'm starting, because I figure you got to pick a lane today until that changes. And then make it sort of so that it can fit. I don't think it's going to work for everybody that way because mine's super simplistic, but that's kind of how I've been approaching it
How are you,
today.
what is everyone doing with let's agentic, right? So the client wants what we just described. They want an end-to-end system that's going to allow them to scale content. How are we doing that today?
Yeah, so the problem, I go down to the basics. I go down to the components that they would need for any model that they were working in. Not really a requirements doc, but kind of. It's like what does it need to do? What are the constraints? What are the tools being used? What does a workflow look like? Because the workflow itself, if you think about what doesn't change, the workflow itself doesn't change if you have a brand guide that you can if you have a brand guide that you can include, if you have a voice and tone guide that you can include, if you've got an editorial team who says we never use the Oxford comma or we never do those kinds of things, those can all go in. So I think of it more from the fundamental standpoint of being able to use it in anything. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is that these things that are over engineered, or when we make them very complex, that's just 100 more places that they can break.
I
So
know.
it's
And
like,
they are breaking, and mine do break
and
too.
that's the thing, is we are essentially using an engineering process, which means things are going to break.
Yeah.
The LLMs are going to change. And
Yeah.
so it's not a one and done and it's magic. It's one and done and it changes next week.
Yeah.
And there has to be a system in place in your own workflows to make sure things aren't breaking and that you can update them. Natalie, by the way, Natalie Lambert does
Yeah.
a course right now on that I'm taking that's on vibe coding. But
Yes, I
what
got all of her materials. How is it? Is it
it's
good?
good.
Is it?
It's good. It also is very technical, but it's less expensive. It's $500, and it she primarily she's ex-Google, so she does a lot of stuff with gems and Chrome browsers and different small tools that you can use. Because that's what I'm skeptical of, is the over engineering. That I'm not an engineer. I think like one, but I'm not one. And I don't want to get into the deep weeds of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. I think this is a difficult question. Right. I mean, everything's difficult right now, but like there's so many options. I struggle with, you know, I mean, just, like if a client comes in and they're on, like, I don't know, like, how do we even know if we're trying to create something that is going to, fit their needs, which is they want more, they want something like all my clients, at the end of the day, they want something that's going to be more autonomous. They want something that's going to take less time. They want something that's going to make them more productive, right? Um, and that requires some level of autonomy with these tools. Like, I don't foresee, like, so for example, my one client, like, I'm not going to sit him down and be like, okay, you're going to open Claude, you're going to open Perplexity, you're going to open Gemini, you're going to open Chat, and you're going to, like, that's not the workflow that's going to work for him or his company. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that doesn't work. So now I'm like, all right, well, what is going to work? He wants, like, I need it to be easier for him, but we need to have the same orchestration to get the best output. Like he's not getting the output I'm getting because he doesn't do all the things I do. So then it's like, all right, well, we need to build the workflow that's going to help him do some of that. And I struggle with like, okay, well, what do we build that on? What is the framework we're building that on? Like, I'm not going to do a Cassidy. It's too expensive and way too in the weeds for him. It needs to be something, you know what I'm saying? So that, and I think, maybe part of my hope is if I wait long enough, like if I wait until the fall, that like Claude or someone's going to roll out a tool that's going to make it all real nice for us. Is that wishful thinking?
it, you know,
They
I
might. Claude
I
might.
was I was thinking about that chart that they teach in logic classes, the Dunning-Kruger chart, um, where basically when your clients are at this phase of, oh, I get a little bit of AI and it's freaking magic. I see Lisa do things and it's magic. And I see somebody else do it and it's like magic. It took 30 seconds. That's kind of like you just really pretty much told the world you don't know what you don't know. You're up at this stage of things where it's magic. The more you learn what's behind it and how things break and what it takes systemically, in Dunning-Kruger, you plunge into the trough of disillusionment. I'm right about there and trying to climb out of the trough of disillusionment
Oh,
and really
baby.
understand how to make things work. But it's true. The problem is clients come in wanting magic, and it's not magic, it's engineering.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a really good insight. And I think that that alignment maybe is really ultimately what I'm struggling with is trying to trying to give them what they want, what they need really. It's really giving them what they need more than what they want, right? They think they know what they want, but really they don't. Then they have no idea what they need really. I don't know. It's hard. It's just all hard, and I'm learning. And I think having everyone's perspective here is so incredibly valuable as we try to get through this next phase. I mean, the other thing that I'll say is we all, most of us that are here now that are hanging on for almost 2 hours now, we're on the bleeding edge of this thing. We really are. Like, I'm still blown away all the time by how many people aren't even meta prompting, and there are quite a few of people that aren't even doing that, So I'm proud that our community is ahead of the curve. We're like way ahead of the curve. But I don't know how much longer we're going to have that differentiator.
And a lot of people don't know what they don't know. So I was in a strategic planning meeting with a client where they actually had people at the table who were putting things into Copilot and asking it, okay, so what's the revenue for this privately held company? And somebody would, it's 55 million. And I'm like, there's no way that company's 55 million. Where are you getting that from? It's 55 million. Copilot said it is. Put that in the Mecco. And I'm like, whoa, Lisa, these people had PhDs in biochemistry. They were not dumb people, but they don't know what they don't know, and they think it's magic.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's absolutely funny for me to hear all this, because in my opinion, I thought it's only like this in Germany, and that in America, where the main companies are located, AI companies are located, everything is okay. I want the opinion everything is okay in America, but I think you have
Please,
the same problems,
Stefan,
same
no.
problems like we have in
It's
Germany.
a shit show in America. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's
Not
a
that
dumpster
show.
fire.
It's very entertaining, I can tell you that, just to,
Marianne, you've got your hand up.
Yes, my point was, but yeah, I think, being European, I'm going to share this with Stefan. It's obviously there is a lot of things that you cannot do because you have GDPR that is stronger, is even stronger in Germany compared to France. So there is a lot of things that we cannot do. But I think one of the role that we have, even of advanced people what using, is also to explain and to simplify. Because I mean, we over complicated things. The workflow needs to simplify life, and I think there is a role in everyone's here company or consulting or like whatever we do to actually start with that point that here's a little bit of fundamentals and then simplifications. And I totally agree with you, Lisa, on people are asking for workflow. But when you think about the workflow should be based on what is operationally already defined, what is your targeting operating model on your company. And so many companies don't even have that documentation. And when I say documentation, it can just be drawing and slides, just be A goes to B, and then here's C and everything. And most of the time when people, say, oh yeah, I want to do something, workflow, work on AI and stuff, but you need to go back to the basics. So I think, and maybe this is part, if I'm, try to grasp, Lisa, what you're working on is that people that have already that work on operational, mind and structure will gain and be easily go to step 2. But so many of company don't have that operational layer still. So, there is also that piece not to forget about. Sometimes AI is just the icing on the cake, but the cake has layer, and sometimes you need to go to the layer. So, but this is where so AI can help definitely.
I totally agree with that, Marianne. I think that a lot of times people think that they are showing more mastery of a skill if they can make things more complex. It's actually harder to simplify things. To simplify things down to basic components that can be used over and over again is much harder, more efficient, and more valuable. And so I think that that's if we can bring those insights to clients or to the companies we work with, that's the biggest value right there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, totally.
Well, everyone, my beautiful baby, this is Ani, everyone. She's giving me the signal that I've got to get out and take her for a
So
walk.
cute.
So cute.
So
This is
adorbs.
great. That
She
you got a
is
new
cute.
dog.
Lisa.
Super cute.
Oh, look at that
Please.
face.
Please give him a hug. Give him a
Yes.
hug from me. I love dogs.
Oh, I will, Stefan. This is my new baby. She's being a very bad girl right now. She's so sweet. Anyways, you're the first ones to see her. I adopted her about 6 weeks ago. So
Aww.
she's a little rescue. I was fostering her and just fell in love. So
Foster fail.
Foster fail. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. I will send out the recording. Stay tuned. Next month, put it on your calendar. Third Friday at 9. I tried to create a LinkedIn invite for it this morning, but there was some issue with LinkedIn. It wouldn't let me. But I'll create one and I'll send an invite out to all of y'all when it's ready. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around. It was so good to see all of you. Have a beautiful
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
A
you.
good
Au
weekend.
revoir.
Au
Bye-bye.
revoir.
Bye.
À bientôt.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.